sounds like it's coming from up there.
Yeah, it does.
Ghosts. Are they real, or are they just figments of our imagination? Have you ever wondered what that strange noise in your attic is, or why your keys aren't where you left them last night? You can have a laugh about it and disbelieve, but in actual fact, there are lots of reported stories out there about ghosts. Today we're in a small island called Jersey. Jersey is one of the most haunted places in the Channel Islands, and we're going to check out some of the more popular stories. I'm Paolo Pereira, and welcome to the Haunted Isle. The island has a vast history of local ghost stories and myths surrounding it. These stories range from a sea sprite being turned into a rock to a black spectral hound that stalks the cliff paths of Beely Bay. The stories we will be covering in today's programme are a haunted hill hiding a dark secret, a cursed house, and a deathly bride who haunts Waterworks Valley. These are just a few of the many legends you can hear. One person that knows a lot about the local ghost stories is Nick Carver.
I am also known as the Ghost Host. I lead ghost walks around the island. Way back in time, a young lady was travelling to her wedding in a beautiful carriage pulled by 6 black horses. And when she arrived at the church, the groom had fled and she was jilted at the altar. So she returned to her carriage, instructed the driver to take her home as fast as he could. And when she got there, she hanged herself. They say that on the anniversary of the wedding, if you happen to be walking in Waterworks Valley late at night, you might hear the sound of the church bells that were ringing on the day she was being taken to the church. However, there are no bells left in the belfry of St. Lawrence's Church anymore. The next thing you might hear are the sound of the horses' hooves as they come towards you, pulling a fine carriage. As the carriage passes by, you'll see a bride sitting in the back seat of the carriage. And as she turns to look at you, she lifts her veil, but all that is left beneath the veil is just a grinning skull.
Now that was very scary, wasn't it? I wouldn't want to bump into her at night. Let's see how many of you believe in ghosts.
No.
Yes, he didn't have legs. He was kind of smoky. He sat on the ends of the bed, and he was talking to me. But you couldn't actually move, and it was a very interesting experience.
No.
Spirits, yeah, maybe. I think so.
No.
I don't know. I don't know if I do believe in ghosts, if I'm honest. It's one of those ones where I kind of think I want to see to believe.
It seems not a lot of you believe in ghosts. Let's hear more of what Nick has to say and see if we can change your minds.
In the 17th century, Protestants were fleeing their native France, seeking refuge from religious persecution. Many of them came here to Jersey to live, to resettle, and they were known as the Huguenots. They would arrive at St Aubin's harbour predominantly because that was a bigger harbour at the time than St Helier. A particularly kindly old gentleman would often meet them at the quayside and offer them a place to stay for the night, somewhere where they could eat and drink and sleep in a bed, free from religious persecution. It would also offer them a very sympathetic ear so that they could tell him all the woes, things that had happened to them in their native France. Well, when they went to his house, they were indeed fed and watered and offered a bed for the night. However, when they had retired to their beds and the lights had been extinguished, the kindly old gentleman would turn murderer, and he would move from room to room, killing the Huguenots as they lay in their beds. And the motive? Pure greed. He was killing them for the possessions they had brought with them from France. Now this went on for some time, until on one occasion, one of the Huguenot women was asleep in her bed, and she awoke before he was able to murder her. She screamed, and it alerted the others in the house. After the old gentleman had been overpowered, the authorities were called, and bodies were found in the garden. He was tried for murder, found guilty and hanged. But even after he was dead, screams continued to emanate from the house down into the village until the people of St Owen could take it no longer. They marched with flaming torches up to the House of Death, as it had become known, and burnt it to the ground. However, they say that the screams continue to this day.
One of the island's haunted locations made the newspapers recently. Liberty Wharf, now a bustling shopping centre, was once used as a slaughterhouse and to hold livestock. Rihanna Hughes, a local medium, performed a cleansing ritual to ease the minds of the shoppers that were worried.
It was okay to say that it was dead down there. Sounds a bit crazy because it was a place where they slaughtered animals, but that's exactly what it's like. There was no atmosphere, it was very dead. That's the only way I can describe it. It was okay. I was contacted by Simon Crowcroft's secretary to go and do it. First of all, I thought it was a wind-up. But yeah, they asked me to go and do it because people complained about the atmosphere down there.
Well, good that that's been sorted. Let's go back to Nick to hear his final story.
This particular story has a real personal significance to me because it was told to me by my grandmother, and this is a story that she and her sisters told about something that happened to them when they were children. They lived at number 15 Regent Road in St Helier, which overlooks Fort Regent, and they were a large family of 7 children. Their father had been killed in the First World War, and their mother, to make ends meet, rented out some of their extra bedrooms from this very large house to gentlemen who were working in the construction industry at the time in St Helier. They had so many bedrooms that relatives who lived in the countryside who came into town to do shopping would often stay the night. And on this particular occasion, an aunt who had come in from the Grouville area had asked if she could spend the night with the family. Well, the next morning at breakfast, all of the children and the boarders and the old aunt from Grouville were sitting at the breakfast table. And the aunt from Grouville stood up and asked if anyone knew anything about the money that had been stolen from her bedroom during the night. Now, she was known in the area as a bit of a witch. Witchcraft was quite rife through the islands over the years. Well, everyone denied that they'd taken the money, and so she placed a curse upon the house, and she said that until the money was returned to her in full, no one would sleep.
None of you will sleep until I get my money.
My grandmother was quite a young child at the time, and she remembers that they were all rather scared about what was going to happen that night. And she remembers that she and her sisters, who slept in the attic bedroom, went to bed, and the candles were snuffed. And as the night progressed, strange things started to happen. Chains were rattling, keys seemed to be turning in doors, and rusty hinges were squeaking. And then the sound of footsteps started up and down the stairs and up and down the corridors, like a marching legion of soldiers. And this continued all night, quite deafeningly loud. And they didn't sleep a wink. And the next morning, they went to the breakfast table, and everyone sat around, bleary-eyed, as if they'd had no sleep at all. Everyone had heard the noises, and everyone had been kept awake with fear. The aunt asked if anyone would like to offer the money up, and no one did. And so the next night, the same thing happened. The keys began to turn in the locks, and the footsteps on the stairs became deafening until about 3 o'clock in the morning. My grandmother remembered it went silent, totally silent. And the next morning at breakfast, they'd all had a few hours sleep, and the aunt came to the breakfast table and said, "Thank you very much. Whoever stole the money returned it back under my door at 3 o'clock in the morning." And at that time, the curse was lifted.
Thank you for returning my money.
Now, we've had some very interesting stories in the programme today. Tune in next week where we'll be checking out some of Guernsey's local ghost stories. Thank you and goodbye.